live on the show. This says YouTube is on and Facebook is not. Oh.
Yeah, Facebook's coming on.
Now Facebook is coming on.
Hello, everybody. So.
Hello.
It's your show?
So let's just say, Tara Jean, what are we doing today?
I don't know. It's your show.
Actually, I can't see anybody.
Well, I'm getting there.
Hello, everyone.
It takes a
Hello.
moment.
We just thought we'd go on for a laid-back show. We should have been reclining somewhere.
So let's just.
There you
Should
go.
have been reclining.
Yeah.
Terry says hi. Megan, Wenda, Tony, and Des. Hello, Des.
Wenda, I'm not sure which fantastic weather you mean. It's not too bad right now. It's cool and drizzly. But
Yes.
we had beautiful and sunny yesterday.
Not just beans. James, you have not just beans? Woo!
Woohoo! Well, hi everyone. So the reason why Tara said this is your show, Mike, is I just said I'd just like to go on this Friday just to chit chat with people. And she said you shouldn't do a chit chat show.
So Terry wants to know, what are your plans for the weekend?
We haven't thought about it, have we?
Packing books.
Well, yeah, been packing books all of today and
Dynamite cookbook.
woohoo!
The classic editions have sold out, I think. We have completely sold out of them. So
We're packing up the remaining orders, trying to get them all out before tomorrow's mail goes out. So actually, a bunch of them went out today already. So
yeah. You guys
So,
want to
yeah.
see my new picture I got at Big Lots? Okay, wait, can you see? Hold on. Let's see if they can see my new picture. Hold on. So we had a Big Lots open today. I was super excited. It was their grand opening.
oh, it's at the ceiling.
Oh, it's on the ceiling. Oops.
Which picture? Oh, that one up there.
Right there, and then I got another one over there. Go Michael show over there.
Where? Oh, this over here.
Aren't those cute? They were buy one get one half off, so they were like, I don't know, $10 or something each. Okay. So post your questions. Mike wants to do a chit chat show, so post your questions. First of all, before we get going, I keep forgetting to do this. Deborah, thank you for the coupons, and I think this was Nancy. She sent me this cute little guy. It says, "Go big or go gnome."
That's awesome.
Isn't that cute? The little stick broke thanks to the post office, but I can fix that easy. So thank you. I so appreciate you sending me that. That is super cute. I think it was Nancy. Was it Nancy? Yes, it was Nancy. You thoughtful thing, you. I appreciate it. So,
Angela, the difference between the two, it still actually says on the page over there, but the 20th anniversary edition had 100 more pages and 28 more recipes, and like pictures of recipe cards from all the different generations of Tara's family, and pictures from our family, and a little story and stuff like that.
yep. Evo. Oh,
But the classic edition is the one we've been selling for a long time, so it's still a great book.
yeah.
So,
It's just updated for the 20th anniversary. Eva, what's a good way to find a legitimate work-at-home job? Make your own.
Oh, yeah. Actually,
We have videos coming out this weekend with my assistant Heidi on jobs that you can do working at home, and you can make hundreds of dollars doing them. Yeah.
I guess we better find out where those are. Actually, one of the things we talked on, we've had two side hustle things, and then we did one about YouTube on Wednesday, and a lot of those are a lot easier than a regular job that doesn't pay very much.
And Heidi and I have 2 more videos coming out on things like dog walking, which it's not all dog walking. There's tons of different ideas that we have that are coming out this weekend. So, Amanda, how long is shipping for the books?
Oh, you asking me?
Mm-hmm.
How long does it usually take? So
10 business days media mail, 3 to 4 business days priority mail once you get the shipping notice.
And hopefully all the ones we have will be shipped by tomorrow.
Yeah.
That we're on that track. Shipped tons of them yesterday and today.
Yep.
So
Heather, what are your plans? Are you plans to go on vacation this summer and where? Thank you,
know.
Leslie.
Do we have plans?
No, we have no plans.
Although,
Ooh, Inbalance is in Israel. Oh,
ooh, yay.
our second Israeli fan. We love Israel. Mike wants to go to Israel really bad.
I do.
I don't have I mean, I'd like to go, but he really wants to go.
We don't have plans for what we're going to do this summer, although we don't tend to plan too far ahead on those things, do we?
No.
No. So that we're kind of waiting to see. We're trying to pay off our house. And if we get it paid off, then we may do some sort of a celebration trip to
We only have $27,000 left.
Woo! Yay.
Elizabeth, I made $6,000 selling stuff I no longer needed in the last 4 years. Wow, that's great.
Awesome.
That's really good. Let's see. Why are you not using meat markets? You're in Colorado. I have no idea what that means, V. Why are you not using meat markets? You're in Colorado. I don't know what that means. I'm sorry. Repost it and maybe I can answer it.
You mean like just buying meat at the meat market over
I have
there?
no idea. Brenda's watching Your Secret to Not Being Broke. Yay. Rhonda loves her cookbook. Yay.
Yay.
Daddy cookbook. Random question. Do you use air fryer or pressure cooker for your cooking? I've been out of the loop for a while. No.
Actually,
My pressure cooker went in the trash about a month ago after using it about 5 times, and I was done. I'm like, forget it.
She fought with it last year a lot, and then I think she
I'm done.
gave that. Would you sell that one or something? And then you
Yeah.
got another one later, and that one she fought with it again for a while, and eventually I came one day and it was in the
I'm
trash
done.
can.
Totally done. Nicole, menu for a cookout party. Oh, that would be coleslaw. We have all these recipes at livingonadime.com or in the cookbook. Coleslaw, deviled eggs. I would do hot dogs or hamburgers. You could do something like a bean goulash or a chili. That would be really great. Tura Tinka barking when she heard you. She made me think you're at the door. She thinks I'm at the door.
Tura,
That's
we would
funny.
love to be at your door.
Oh, that'd be hilarious if we just showed up at her door one
In
day.
Norway, that would be awesome.
We're not planning on it, but that would be fun. Let's see. Love my cookbook, Rhonda. Save some money at the store. Yay! Have you guys thought about doing podcasts? Maggie wants to know.
I mean, we might be able to do it. I asked Tara the other day if she thought we should or not for certain things, but you didn't say. So
Well, why don't we just take the videos we have and turn them into
we
podcasts?
had a couple people ask, but not a huge number of people, so we're not sure how popular they would be.
Yeah.
But it wouldn't be too difficult. I mean, it would be time consuming, but not incredibly difficult if a lot of people seem to want them. So we're not on that trail at the moment, but since we're bringing it up, if you guys would like podcasts, we might be able to. Well, basically, what we do is take the audio from some of the shows and stuff, and then do that. So.
Well, I mean, I guess we could just sit. I think people want to hear stuff.
That's not on the show?
Well, no. Well, yeah, but I mean, in the car while they're going.
Yeah.
But can't you just turn on YouTube while you're in the car and go?
Well, not very. I mean, you can if you have really good bandwidth on the road, but it skips and stuff. And
How many 20th edition have we sold? I don't know. We've sold at least probably 3,000 or 4,000. I don't know.
Are we on our second or third batch of 20th?
Second.
So yeah, we probably sold about 3,000 or 4,000. We ordered 5,000, and we still have probably half of. Well, in 2 batches of 2,500, so we have probably half of one batch left. So yeah, about 3,000, 3,500.
Jessica loves my door. That's my dumpster dive door, guys. We went to dumpster day like 6 years ago, and it was sticking out of the dumpster, and I said, I'm taking that home, and Michael's like,
I was just laughing because, especially for the first 5 or 6 years that we were living here, we were getting a lot of stuff out of dumpsters, and we were talking about on the show, here we're hauling our stuff to dump day, and then suddenly she's like, look at that.
yes, but that's worthy of bringing home.
Prior to that, we have videos about this, but we got a lot of wood and sawed grass So we did all the grass in our yard with that, and we built a shed, a really nice shed, pretty much for free.
We spent $200 on a shed that would have cost us almost $10,000.
And a bunch of other stuff that we did with stuff that we got out of dumpsters. So on dump day, normally kind of my thinking, well, I think at the time I was joking around with her saying, okay, we're only taking stuff, we're not bringing stuff.
Yeah. Kaylee, is there a way I can get the printed version instead of the ebook I purchased? Yes, you can.
Email us.
Put a link in there to where you can order the print book and email us, and we can give you a refund on the ebook if you got the wrong thing. Rhonda, how's your brother? Well, he's getting feeling back in his arms, but he's really not doing a whole lot better. Crescent, do y'all garden?
Tara loves gardening. She didn't garden the last year or two very much. Well, not at all last year.
Not
right?
at all. Last year is the first year I didn't have a garden in more than 30, like 6 or 7 years.
But even though she didn't do it intentionally, a lot of stuff still came up.
Sheila, did you buy that beautiful house in Kansas?
No, which one was the beautiful house in Kansas? Oh, that one.
Yeah.
We didn't. We're kind of on our payoff trail, and we're thinking, do we really want to? Well, the one in Kansas, we wouldn't have to, I guess. We'd also looked at another one that was pretty close to us here in Colorado, but we would have to get another mortgage, and since ours is almost paid off,
Only $27,000.
woo! We don't really want to.
You're touching me.
Yes, I'm touching you.
Hashtag you're in my personal space.
Um,
Can you ask only questions about food? No, you can ask us anything you want, Wendy, so ask away. Put them in capitals, though. If you guys have a question, put it in caps because it's easier for me to see you. Fiona, have we ever shipped to Australia and how much?
Yes, we do ship to Australia. The shipping is kind of pricey. It's like $23 for a book. If you add it to the cart, it will tell you what the shipping is to your area. Sadly, it's more expensive to send overseas from here. Although I think if you have if you know somebody else that wants one too, the shipping it's less expensive for additional books.
We'll have a Mother's Day sale coming up in the next week or two. Stacy bought 3 books. Thank you, Stacy.
Woohoo.
$930 left.
She said I ordered my book 3 days ago and it came today. Whoa.
Wow.
With the standard shipping? That's brilliant.
Great.
Wow,
yeah,
awesome.
Dawn, I do Instacart and DoorDash. My hubby pays all the bills. I have paid almost all of our credit card debt off. Next step is paying off our house. It's so fun having 2 incomes, but living on one. Yay, good job. Jesse, my husband had rotator cuff surgery yesterday. How do I explain this to 2-year-old why daddy can't play? He just is not understanding. Well, 2-year-olds, you just can't. You just say, daddy can't play, he got hurt.
Daddy got hurt.
Yeah, just say, daddy got hurt. We have to wait for him to feel better.
When he gets all better, then he'll be able to play.
Tammy, do we feel successful? $27,000! No, not really.
Tara never feels successful.
I have certain things that I get in my head, and when I do this, I will feel successful, and I'm not there yet. So, no, I don't.
Do you want me to say one of those things?
I don't care.
Well, like the book, the Dining on a Dime book, I think initially she thought, oh, we're going to sell 1 million copies and it's going to blow the charts. And we have sold a ton of copies over the years.
But
not all at once.
But more than half were 25 cents a copy is how much we got per copy. So for all of you who doing the math, we get everybody doing the math. No, we are not multimillionaires because we've sold so many copies. For 250,000 of those books, we got 25 cents. So, why don't you like the pressure cooker? Because it stinks.
Well, she can't. Tara's had trouble. I've never tried to use it. Tara had trouble getting it to do what she wanted it to do. And a lot of times, it didn't seem to be any faster. Like, for instance, people talk about using it for rice, but we cook rice on the stove at about, was it less time than it took us in the pressure cooker?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
But there are some things like Patty Alderman at Alderman Farms, she was kind of browning something in the pressure cooker and then treating it a couple other ways and then cooking it. And I think Tara was thinking, I should be able to just throw it in there and close the lid. And it hasn't been that easy for us since we've been doing it.
The pressure cooker takes a ridiculous amount of time, in my opinion. There's nothing instant about it, if you ask me.
But I'm curious about the air fryer because I have some friends that were asking me if we've ever
Yeah.
used air fryers, and I'd be curious to try
If we had a
that.
bigger kitchen, I would try one. Michelle, your hard work is helping so many people, including me. Very grateful for your advice. Thank you. You're welcome. Thank you. Okay. Is there a way you could send me a print book? Yeah, Kaylee, once again, send me an email. We'll refund your ebook and you can order a print book. Maggie, I'd like to listen while you work around the house if you guys did podcasts. We have sold out of the classic edition of Dining on a Dime and we are no longer selling it. Do our children work outside the home? Yes, the ones that are over 16 and are able to work, they both have full-time jobs.
If you notice on the page, it still shows the classic edition there, mostly because I was going to wait till we ship them all out and make sure they're actually all sold out.
Yeah. Okay. Wow. Darlene, I ordered mine a week ago and still haven't gotten mine. So please give it 10 business days. If you do not have 10 business days, please email us or contact your post office if you have the tracking number and they can look it up for you. Okay. A lot of people love their air fryers. Woohoo.
Woohoo.
Mike and Guy. Mike and Tara, how do you seem to keep a happy marriage? You guys seem so happy. It's all fake. Okay.
Did you hear me?
You're in my personal bubble.
I'm in your personal bubble. I know.
I am feeling my space is being treaded upon. Okay. Let me go back up here.
I forgot which movie that was, this kind of thing. It just looks kind of... We need more salt people, yay. Oh,
okay.
I think Elizabeth was saying she wants to hear you say period.
Yeah, I saw that. Let's see. Okay. Where are we at here? How do you keep your personal work life separate? We don't, Liz.
That's actually been a problem.
That's
been a really big problem.
Our biggest problem is we never stop working. And by that I mean I may not be physically working because I just can't do it, but Mike will be talking to me about work when I'm trying to rest, or I'll be at the grocery store and think, oh, look at, there's clearance stuff. I've got to do a video on that. And so it's always there. It never stops. But anyway, Julie from Georgia, who we met in person and we love, she drove 6 hours to see us. I'm still flabbergasted by that. I've been spending my time using extra stuff I've been hanging around the house. It's amazing the stuff I've collected. Good for you. Get it all used up there.
Oh, hey, the thing about the separating work and business, we have been trying on the week to not do the weekends so much, although it's been a struggle. But one of the things that was difficult, especially for Tara, but she's not doing work necessarily, but she's reading about work or stuff like that. So the thing that I regret from the very beginning, but in those days we didn't really think about it, was not having the business email totally separate from the personal email. And I've kind of made a lot of effort to do that, but they still get mixed up sometimes, and it drives me crazy.
Do you guys have extra tips to save money on food that you haven't told us about? Life of a wife. No, not really. We've got over 1,500 recipes and tips on our website, and on our YouTube channel we've got over 1,000 videos. So I think we've pretty much covered it all, which is why we keep repeating it, because people just need to keep hearing the same thing. No meat markets in Colorado. That's an East Coast thing. Yeah, we have a meat market here in our town, like a butcher type thing, but there's no way I'm going to pay $8 for a pound of hamburger. That's ridiculous. So, would it be possible to convert the shows into podcasts? I'd listen to them over and over to motivate myself to get it together, Julie. There, now you can record that for posterity, and when you need a boost, Tara told you so. Okay, can we do that?
Podcasts? We can. We just taking them from the shows? Is that what we want to do that?
I don't know.
We can we'll certainly talk about it and think, because it seems like it's something that's not too difficult to do. So I would kind of like to try to find out if we could do it through some place that would put it, like the iTunes store or something like that.
Mary, how are all the kids doing? Ellie, how are you doing? She went like that. So they're doing good. No, the kids are doing good as far as I think so. BJ's still not feeling well, but he's just moving on with life.
DJ and Ellie are planning to go to a movie tonight. So.
Any advice for first-time homebuyers with a son with spectrum disability? I don't exactly know what that question would be, so maybe rephrase it and we can try again.
I think it means that some things in the house are... Maybe the child or maybe their son has a bad reaction to it, like our friend who had trouble with clocks.
I don't know. I mean, I guess be more specific and I can maybe help you with that. I'm not sure. Do we guys watch... I've
been in it, Grandma.
Susie, do we watch TV? I'm curious if you watch local channel with an antenna or having streaming services like Netflix and Hulu.
We use streaming services mostly. Right now, we mostly do Amazon Prime and YouTube. Although we also get movies at the library sometimes and occasionally somewhere else. But it's mostly streaming, and we almost never watch regular TV. When we first got this house, I put an antenna in the attic so we could watch the local channels. But
that we have just in case there's tornadoes and stuff.
I think we've watched like 4 or 5 football games in the last 7 years on there.
Yeah.
And we never watch news, so the local news isn't an issue for us. So, yeah. Pretty much the streaming stuff.
Elaine, do you think our kids will follow our entrepreneurial lead?
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, they're all entrepreneurial, actually. All of them really are. A little bit. I don't know if they'll make it their life to do that, but yeah.
But to some degree, they're what they express that they want to do and what they're working on has some sort of entrepreneurial.
Everybody likes the idea of podcasts.
Really? Okay.
Yeah. I make my extra money selling perennials in my huge yard. I would love to do that for work. That would be my dream job, is selling my flowers. Really? I never had any intention in my entire life to be an author or YouTuber or anything like that. All I wanted to do is be a gardener.
It was just the idea of the moment.
Yep.
I touched you.
You touched me. Stop it. Lady of Huntington. We own a construction company. We do demolition, bring a lot of good items to reuse. We have a whole house coming next. Looking forward to doing that up and using it for rental. Ooh, great job.
Wow, that's a good idea.
My book arrived in Tasmania. Lady of Huntington. Good.
Yay.
I'm so glad
and she
I got
said
there.
in great time. Tasmania is a long way from here.
Good. Melissa, since finding you, we've been able to pay off $20,000 in debt, still have more to go because my spending was out of control. Any advice on moving forward and forgiving myself a lot of Get over it. Okay.
Hey,
seriously. It's in the past. We all make mistakes. We all screw up. God will forgive us. Why can't we forgive ourselves?
Well, and if it's behind you, you can't change it.
You can't change what's behind you, but you can certainly change what's in front of you. So you may have been on every single diet the last 40 years of your life, like me, and you're still overweight and you still keep trying. Well, that's fine. It doesn't mean that you don't try again. Same with debt. You may have gone on every budget, every whatever. The fact of the matter is, you are not going to save money and you're not going to get out of debt until you stop spending more money than you earn, period. Okay, now, guilt.
But since you're paying off $20,000, since you've been able to pay off $20,000 in debt, it seems like you're not in that problem anymore.
I would count it as a victory and move on.
So it's, in a sense, it's giving you the inspiration to do what you're doing. It's taught you. I don't know. This may not be to be related, but when I used to do live television shows as the director,
Thank you, Jonathan.
Training other directors, everything was coming at us all the time, and we had to keep on going. And I would say, hey, you have to be careful not to look back at the mistakes you've made too much, because I said if you look back, it's kind of like driving along in a car and you think you hit a squirrel. So as you look back to see if you hit a squirrel, you run over all the kids that are standing at the bus stop. Yeah. So you just got to keep your focus on the forward direction. Yeah. And I would just let that guilt totally go. It's in the past, and you've obviously overcome it if you've paid off $20,000.
Yeah. Carol, we have $27,000 left to pay off on our mortgage. Yes,
and some of that we already have the savings for. We were just holding it while we were watching a few other things that are clearing out a little bit at a time. So
yeah. Is Ellie planning a trip for the summer? Yes, she has a few places she would like to go, so she's working on that. Right. Okay.
Are you pretty aggressively doing that? Yay. Okay.
Carrie, you did a video a while ago about fear holding you back when it comes to money, and it was life-changing for me.
Yay.
Thank you and Mike for your support and patience with us. You're welcome. Please forgive me for losing my patience now and then.
And fear is probably one of the biggest problems that virtually everyone has, and in overcoming it is really, really important.
Yeah.
Or at least ignoring it and walking past it.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Thank you, Jonathan, our troll slayer. We love you. I got a settlement from my totaled car. Should I invest it or should I buy a car? I paid off my debt a date. You're getting closer to me. This is not an arid commercial. Should I?
Don't I smell good though?
You do smell good. I paid off my debt a day before the accident. I walked to work 3 days when I had my car. So, Nancy, I'm not quite sure of your question, but if you're saying if you should buy a car, I would say that get the minimum car that you need if you need one. If you don't need a car, then shoot, I wouldn't buy one. Unless you need it.
I think Nancy's saying she has no debt currently, and if that's true, it would be okay. But if it was us, if we had a car that was working pretty well for us, we'd just keep it and put the money in something else.
Yeah. Or like if you got $10,000 for your car and you can find a clunker for $2,000 to get you by for what you need, then I would do that. So
like, we've been thinking when we pay off the house, what will we do then with that money? And honestly, I mean, well, there is one car that we were temporarily on because we wanted to replace it with a car that's not that much money. But in general, we probably wouldn't upgrade or buy anything new except that I'm driving Ellie's old car, which some people might say is a clunker or whatever, but it's a
clunker now.
It works so much better than...
It's reached clunker status, though.
It's better than so many of our other clunkers in the past.
Well, that's true.
Like, the main thing is it has a crack in the windshield, and there's one other issue. What is it? It's not... Oh, it has a crack in the windshield, and a lady backed into Ellie, and it has a plastic fender, and the fender just cracked, and Ellie didn't fix it because she wasn't going to keep it very long. She just put a big Band-Aid on it. And that Band-Aid... We should be an endorsement for Band-Aids because that Band-Aid's been on there, what, two years?
So we paid $1,800 for the car. Ellie drove it 2 years. A lady backed into her. We got $1,200. Then it had hail damage, and we got another, I think, $1,600. So we got our money out of that car.
But we kept it because it's a standard, and one of the things, we have certain things that we always, like, all of our kids need to swim. All of our kids need to learn this and that. And one of the things is all of our kids need to learn how to drive a standard. And so we bought it back from the insurance company, which is why we got the $1,600 for it, so that we could teach him that. But honestly, Dave and I are driving it, and I'm thinking, well, obviously something else could fail on it at any time. But at the moment, it's good enough.
Monica, I'm not sure what your son having autism has to do with buying a house, but I would say it would be just any other, just regular... I mean, just as far as going to buy a house, it would just be like any other thing. You would just be really careful, make sure you know your prices, look around the neighborhood to make sure you're getting a good deal.
Well, and the main thing that would be an issue for you, Monica, and you know your son, what kinds of things do you know of that bother him with his autism? Because like I said, we had a friend, and we have some friends, and their son, when he came to our house the first time, he was really afraid of clocks and things like that. So are there any components to the house that you know would not
like trains,
work
dogs,
with what you know about your son? So like if he's afraid of dogs or trains or the sound of them, then that would be an issue that you'd want to consider. But a lot of things that bother kids are things that are changeable. So if it's like the clocks, you could just take all the clocks out.
Yeah.
But if it's something like hallways that do some particular thing or whatever, then you'd have to be careful on that.
In balance, you helped me so much. I'm 28 years old and I just got married last month and I saved so much money I could buy my house without a mortgage.
Boom! Woo! That's brilliant.
Good job.
Wow.
Actually, there's really no reason nowadays that kids cannot get married and work for 2 or 3 years and save up enough cash and just pay cash for a house. Really, there's no reason for it. And our son is working on that right now.
Well, I was going to say that's one thing. I wasted a lot of time. Of course, in those days, I was a totally different person, but I didn't understand saving or any value in that. And I thought, let's just pretty much like everybody else, let's just borrow and have everything we want right now. Mm-hmm. But with BJ, he's making pretty decent money now, but since he still lives here, he's restricted the money that he can spend to what he had before he got this job, and everything else he's putting into an account to put on a down payment for a house.
And he is paying rent and all of his expenses. So just so everybody's got that around there.
Of course, here in Colorado, like the house we're in, it's not that big of a house. It's probably like, if we sold it today, it'd probably be like $400,000.
Yeah.
If we had the same house in Kansas, it'd be like 120.
Yeah. Hello, Naomi, Girl and World.
Hi,
Our
Naomi.
favorite Michigan YouTubers that we
Woohoo.
love. Guys, go check out Naomi and Hannah's sites. They're great. Let's see. Jonathan is sitting outside on the deck. It's a beautiful day. A couple more weeks, and then it's all downhill.
He's in
That's
Florida.
That's why we're not moving
Central
to Florida.
Yeah. He said it'd be brilliant if we wanted to come in January.
There you go. Let's see. Thanks for doing the side hustle videos. Good. Glad they're helpful. Can you do a video on your parenting style sometime? Oh boy. No, probably not.
No? Why not?
Because our kids are not grown, and I don't want to do any parenting videos until
Well, we
our
don't need
children
to
are
say-
grown, productive members of society.
We don't need to say we're perfect parents. We just need to say, here are the things that we've done, and as so far, these are the way the kids appear to be.
Yeah, because every time you say, my kids are never
We
gonna,
don't
your
have-
kids...
We don't have to say our kids are never gonna.
Mm-hmm.
Just people see the way they are now, and then from here on, we're not really sure. We'd like to think we know where they're going.
How
but
are we going to celebrate when the house is paid off? I don't know. We got to think of something good.
I want to travel.
I think when the house is paid off, we should give away 100 books.
I'm okay with that.
I think we should. A standard. What is a standard?
Oh, a standard is a manual transmission, Elizabeth. Like, pretty much, well, if you're in UK, I imagine more cars are that than automatic. So, yeah, with the stick.
Yeah. What Michelle likes 101. I'm 24 and trying to move out of my mom's house. What's the best advice you can give me? Stop spending money eating out and on a bunch of stuff. Save that money. Get your down payment. Get your house. Get 1 or 2 months worth saved up and get your buns out and get going on life.
Well, and also think about what's the minimum you need to succeed. The minimum stuff, not the minimum money. So, like, when I got out, I couldn't really afford the rent. So I rented a house with 3 roommates, and they interviewed me like it was a job, so I knew it was going to be a good house. But yeah, what Tara's saying, like, our kids have realized recently, wow, we spend a lot of money on pizza and coffee and movies. And they're scaling that back.
Yeah.
Really a lot.
Yeah.
And those kinds of things are really important because when you're living in your parents' house and you don't have to have the other stuff, that temptation is really easy.
Yeah.
But to make it successful, to think, okay, what's the minimum I can have in that kind of stuff? And then once it's all together, then you can figure out the rest of your spending.
Should you use a bank or a credit union? I don't think it really matters. Credit unions are a little bit better, I think, though.
It doesn't, yeah, the thing about credit unions is they tend to have fewer fees. And if you needed something like a mortgage, they tend to work with you better.
Dalai Lama Ranch, you have made me addicted to soap making today. I had my first store soap, stocking my soap. Good job. I'm glad I inspired somebody. I need parenting tips. My 17-year-old and 2-year-old are rough sometimes. Consistency is so much easier to talk about than follow through with. Well, that's what it boils down to. You've already answered your own questions. If you're not consistent, then it's not going to do any good. So your priority needs to be consistency. So if you say, if you don't stop that, I'm taking away the computer, you have to take away the computer, and it's going to be a pain on you.
You have to do it because you said you would. And 17-year-old may be difficult to change. I mean, you can. It's just a harder road with a 17-year-old than a 2-year-old. But consistency is really important. So never make a threat unless you're absolutely willing to back it up, no matter what. And never, like, anytime we would say do this, we were really big about not being rebellious. So if Tara said, hey guys, come and do the vacuuming, and they're like, okay, they're just grumbling, and that's fine, but they're coming to vacuuming. But if they say no, or I'm not going to do it, or whatever, we'd crack down on that immediately and lock that down. And anytime there were the consistency is a big thing, and especially with people's emotions, because I know I would feel at times like emotional frustration, and there are times where you can't let it go. Like some people say, I yell at my kids, and then don't yell at them, because if you yell at them, it's defeating your purpose. And that consistency of,
Yeah.
being calm, among other things.
Actually, when I get upset with the kids, I whisper at them instead of yelling. And that gets their attention.
You don't seem like you're that upset very often, but when she is upset like that, it's pretty obvious. She doesn't. The main thing is consistency in everything.
Yeah.
And
they're kids, guys. Their job is to test everything you do. So you have to realize they are testing me. So you just have to know what you have set and just keep it, and just realize they're going to test you. I don't understand why parents yell at kids, because
don't ever yell at them.
I don't understand, because they're kids. That their job is to test the boundaries of every single thing until they become an adult. That is what they do. So why are you getting frustrated about it? You should just expect it.
And the testing is okay. It's part of the growing up. But there are certain boundaries, and when they test those boundaries, they need to know this is a brick wall.
Yeah.
I cannot go through this boundary, or there are going to be major consequences. Also, consequences. There should be things that you really want them not to do, or to do. Going against what you're asking on that should come with some sort of consequences, and they will learn. And typically, the consequences are something that's of value to them. They're either not going to get it if they want it, or they're going to get it if they don't want it.
Okay, to freeze one piece of pizza, Julie, I would take a piece of wax paper and stack the slices with pieces of wax paper in between, or individually fold them in foil, and then you can just pop them in the oven if you want to warm them up.
Sorry, one other thing. Sorry, on the kids thing, I would say this is an issue at all ages, but especially with the teenagers. Teenagers will kind of say, "Oh," and do different things like that. And you know what? You don't need to engage that most of the time. I would say if it's just, if they're rebelling and not doing what you ask, then you definitely need to engage that. But if it's just them kind of being sulky, that's what teenagers do. So that I wouldn't. So you definitely need to choose battles on those things, right?
Jennifer, what do you think about tiny houses? I'm considering retiring in one. I think it's great if you can do it. I mean, go for it. I think it's a great idea. Would you ever leave being self-employed and go work outside the house again?
Not willingly.
Well, I mean, if you need to.
If I had to, I would. But the thing is that
Okay.
I think it would cut down our income.
Could we please not come quite so much into the personal bubble? I love you, but you keep getting closer and closer. So, back to Shannon. She wants to know, how do we have a happy marriage by not getting into our personal bubble? I'm sorry.
Wow, I did not know that was bothering you so much. Okay, she said it, but usually that's... anyway, the thing is, if I went to a regular job again with the skills that I have, it would be difficult to get a regular job that paid as much as I could make on an entrepreneurial thing. Mm. And so for that reason, and that I just like being an entrepreneur better, I would have a really hard time thinking I would go back to a regular job. Yeah. Honestly, a lot of the stuff that people are asking about, when they say about side hustles, I don't really know if I can do this or that. Some of the stuff we've been talking about on the side hustles, but they're saying maybe I'll go get a job at the local grocery store or Walmart. You can make a lot more money on a side hustle on your own than those kinds of jobs, for sure.
Yeah. Yeah. What kind of insurance for clunkers? So liability, I guess, but the problem is here in Colorado, for $5 more a month, we can have comprehensive. And it has more than paid for itself just in the hail damage that we have gotten from our cars. The hail damage alone has paid for all of our clunkers. So just look into it and see. Have I ever thought about making a soap making book? I do have my How to Make Soap for Beginners e-course. You can get it here. But I probably won't do print book.
If you didn't see the link she just shared, it's livingonadime.com, and go to the store.
All right, yeah, let's see. Okay, let's head over to Facebook real quick here. Okay, sorry, guys.
Sorry, she doesn't want to be close. Thank you, and I am too.
Unfortunately, Mike's love language is touch, and mine's not.
But Jack's is, so he likes to come and give hugs.
Rhonda, how long have y'all been married?
It will be 25 years this year.
Very long years.
Yeah, you're telling me.
Okay, so Shannon really wants to know
we laugh a lot.
What is happy marriage advice? I don't know.
Well,
You let a lot of things go.
Yeah.
You don't keep bringing up stuff that's little irritations in life. You just kind of try to ignore it and move on.
But deal with it if it's a consistent pattern. We're not totally
Yeah.
perfect on those things.
No.
We laugh a lot, especially at
Yeah.
difficult circumstances. Because we've had a lot of times where in difficult circumstances, people are surprised that we handle them pretty well. And
Yeah.
a lot of times it's because we throw humor into situations that people would normally say, that's not funny.
Yeah.
But it does kind of really make life a lot lighter.
We joke about pretty much everything in life, including death and dismemberment and falling off the roof and everything.
But we don't yell at each other. We don't cuss at each other. We don't fight on that kind of level.
Yeah.
And those things I think are really important.
Oh, are we offline?
I don't know. Let me go look.
Looks like we're still on YouTube.
Everything I see over here is
Okay. How do I feel about CBD oils, Wendy?
Looks like we're still on.
I have no problem with people using CBD oil. I do have a problem with people smoking marijuana. But from the research that I've done, CBD seems to help a lot of people, so I don't have a problem with that.
Basically, the difference that she would say on that is that as far as we can understand that we're told that the CBD doesn't have the addictive component.
Yeah.
The thing with the marijuana, though, is it just makes people not
Yeah.
want to do anything
Oh,
useful in
shoot.
life.
Somebody's question just went off on Facebook. Guys, re-ask your questions on Facebook if I missed it.
Do you have any idea what it was?
Let's see. You only buy used cars. Terry wants to know what's the cheapest car we ever bought that lasted the longest. Ellie's, I think, was $1,800, and we've had it 5 years now.
We put like 150,000 miles on it.
Yeah.
Normally, right now, we'll shoot for my kind of car, just a sedan, $3,000.
Yeah. What do we think about dental insurance? It doesn't cover usually, unless, I mean, if you have something major that you're going to need, you might look into it, but you just have to sit down and figure out how much it's going to cost you versus what they'll pay.
And normally the cost is greater than the payments.
Do you think you can get a decent used car for $1,500? Yeah. It'll take you a while to look, but you can, Terry.
What's good is to look at them. If you don't know anything, if you know stuff about cars,
Yeah.
then great. If you don't know, bring somebody with you. Basically,
Yeah.
if it's leaking something or it smells funny or it's making a weird noise,
Yeah.
those are good clues. And we tend to joke for $1,500, it'd be not quite as picky as $3,000, but we tend to look for kind of low mileage. Often we look for things that like grandmas have owned. And
So, Rhonda, sounds like people in Colorado need driver's lessons again. No, we need all the Californians who have brought their horrible driving here to leave. This is not Los Angeles. Okay, sorry. Actually, that's truly what's happened. Is Colorado has a huge influx of Californians, and they're driving in California. They think that this is California, and so they drive like that here. And that truly is a big problem here.
Well,
but
when we got married 25 years ago here, people were pretty laid back and on the roads and stuff, but not at all anymore.
yeah.
Usually, most of the time, things like at stoplights, 3 or 4 cars will run every light.
Oh, yeah. But they have no problem. I saw a guy just flat out run a red light yesterday.
People-
It just flat out ran a red light.
People get really big vehicles and they ride like super, super close to you at a high speed, and they don't have conceptualized that this might be unpleasant or,
Yeah.
combative.
Krista, my father always told me never get a credit card. I'm not in debt. Okay, here's the thing. I don't agree with that because I think you should have credit cards, but you should just pay them off every month and use them responsibly. Okay.
Don't carry a balance on a credit card.
Don't carry a balance on a credit card. Our kids, our 18 and 20-year-old, we have them get a credit card and they pay it off every month so that they can build their credit up. So, yay, Violet, for making pierogies with what you have on hand. Ellie just drove 50 miles to Denver yesterday to get real pierogies because she really wanted to try them.
Here.
Okay.
Mom doesn't want me in her bubble. Can I be in your bubble?
Heather, lay new floors over original hardwood that my cousin got paint over, or buy a buffer and buff all the floors and re-wax. Just bought my first home and had to do a lot of fixing up. I would buff it and re-wax. Yeah, definitely. I would not waste money on laying new hardwood floors.
Well, unless they're like seriously destroyed.
I mean, they'd have to be really destroyed to do that. Okay, I don't get to watch all the time, but I listen enough to use what I've had on hand and spend money for something else, and I've been cooking only what we have in the freezer and cabinets. Good job, Linda! Good job, good job. Respect the bubble, Susan says.
Hey, the online clothing store thing, I would say I wouldn't invest a whole lot of money until you try it in some way, but I would try it. I would try something
Start
like
small.
Amazon FBA or eBay. FBA would probably be better for that.
Yeah. And I wouldn't start any small business that you can't pay cash for to get started with going. There are so many ways you can do things now. Take the money you earn and then reinvest it in your business until you get bigger.
Serve each other every day. That's good marriage advice.
Yes, and you do that very well. Thank you.
Oh, you're welcome.
Michael does the dishes and he vacuums and he runs to the store for me and he rubs me when my fibromyalgia is hurting and he keeps gas in the cars and he vacuums and cleans the cars for me and he takes all the books to the post office and yep. So see?
Oh, Terry asked, do you believe in getting a credit card to raise your credit score?
We answered that.
Oh, did you? Oh, sorry.
Did we used to do telemarketing selling insurance? No, we didn't.
Well, we've heard the phrase before.
Carol, what is your opinion on clearance sales? I say they're great and go for it if it's a good deal, but know your prices. Clearance is not always a better deal. Do you have a video on doing a yard sale? I don't think we do, but we have a post on our livingonadime.com. Type in how to have a garage sale. It's in there.
And there's one on how to shop at garage sales and one on how to have one.
Yeah. Yep.
Actually, in a lot of places, it's illegal. You said in South it's considered rude to enter the intersection. You're right, but when I was in Texas, it was illegal to enter the intersection until everyone was cleared out.
Tam, no, hello, my favorite cousin. I did not get your stuff sent. I am sending it this week. I was waiting for that soap that I make for Mike to finish curing. Do I plan a menu every week? No. I cook out of my pantry. Whatever I have on hand is what I figure out what to have for dinner. So, how do you feel about orthodontic treatment on an adult? If it's needed, then go ahead. Or if you just hate the way your teeth look and you have the cash,
I wouldn't
or
charge
your insurance will cover it, then I would do it. I would not charge it. Happy marriage, don't cheat. Yeah.
Well, that's true.
That would
and
really
actually,
help.
and that's funny because we've known people, and they think if they're struggling with their spouse or that somebody else might be easier, and that never works. Never.
Yeah. Do you have any tips for hiring a moving company to move across country? No, we've moved across country 3 times, I think. Well, it depends on what you call a cross country move. We've moved from the West Coast to from the Midwest to the West Coast back to the Midwest, and then we moved from Kansas to Colorado a few times. But we've done it all ourselves.
If we were going to hire a moving company, though, I'd probably try to get a lot of references and call people who they give you as references. And
I wouldn't call a moving company. I would just do it yourself and hire some people off of Craigslist or something to help you get the stuff out to the thing. I don't know, but
one thing I would say though is if you're moving, whether you have a moving company or not, get rid of as much as you can.
Yeah, I dump everything. I mean, I sell our couch, I sell our kitchen table, our chairs, all the beds. We sell everything except for the few antiques like the piano that my parents made and a few antiques that I have. I sell everything and then just rebuy it at garage sales when we get to where we're going for.
Congratulations,
Music
Jennifer.
Mad, stiff neck. Sit with a heating pad on it. That's the best thing you can do. Sit with a heating pad.
Jennifer said she's going to be a grandma, so I said, congratulations.
Oh, yay, Jennifer, good job. Well, I guess you didn't have anything to do with that, did you? Sorry. Are we still moving overseas? We were only going to go for a year, and no, we're not. And we're still wanting to move, but we just don't know where yet.
But we might go overseas for a few months at some point, just for fun, which is what we were planning to do.
Goodbye.
Bye. Have fun. Kiddos going to the movie.
Okay. Let's see. Any small business suggestions to make money? Jennifer, those 2 videos are coming out this weekend, so you will see those. And you can make several $1,000s doing it too.
And there's a couple videos from last weekend as well. Yeah. And we're kind of doing a lot of those lately on the channel. So
yeah. Uh-huh.
And I was really surprised. Heidi has some, I guess I'm not that surprised, but Heidi has some brilliant ideas that I'd never even thought of. And even if you don't do the ideas that she talks about or that she and Tara talk about, just listening to those ideas is really good at helping figure out how to think in that way.
Yeah. Mm-hmm. Mike and Tara, I took your advice and bought the book Boundaries. Shannon!
Yes!
Good for you. Good for you.
You're reading it now, right?
Yeah, now you have to read it. Good for you. What is your opinion on sinking funds as savings for Christmas? I'm not sure what that means.
You mean like on saving? Like saving ahead of time for it?
I would do it if that's what you mean.
I'm not sure what sinking funds are. That was our only confusion.
If you were a $768 million, okay, I don't know where that number came from, lottery winner.
I would take the entire amount at once.
Yeah, I would take the entire amount.
I would not do it over time. If you die, then it goes away.
Would you open a new business, start a foundation, or buy your own island, or what? I don't know. I would buy the house of my dreams first. That's what I would do. I want a house. I want a quiet house in the country. That's what I want. I would buy that first, but I don't know.
We would give a lot of it away, but then we would, probably buy the house and travel and probably think of what business, what could we do to modify anything we're doing to be something like we would do if we didn't have to get paid?
Yeah. Sarah, what do you do to heat your home? I have fuel oil and it's a big expense for me, at least $500 a month, and that's with the heat turned down to 65. Wow.
So that's very specific on 768 million. Is there something we should know?
I don't know.
Yeah, the thing on those is if you're
sending it to us, it's Living on a Dime, P.O. Box 193, Meade, Colorado 80542. And if you need my bank account, I'd be happy to give it to you.
So one thing on those is the lump sum, even though it's a lot less, you have the ability to do anything you want with it to try to make it grow. But if you take it, first of all, if you die, a lot of the times the rest of it doesn't come to you. But if you don't die and they pay you throughout the whole time, you could still make a lot more with that money than what they're going to pay you. So,
yep.
I wouldn't tell anybody that you won.
Yeah. If you have
Keep that to yourself and drive your regular pickup.
If you have Costco, you can buy dental insurance for $99 a year.
Well, that would be okay.
Man, I wish we would have known that when we just spent $6,000 on dental. How am I feeling? How am I fibromyalgia? Bad, not good. Let's see. Can you make a comparison between Netflix, Amazon price, shows price? You just have to see what kind of shows you like and what it's worth for you. That's just a personal thing that you have to decide.
The price of either one of them is very negligible compared to the cost of other things. So a lot of those streaming things are cheap compared to, like having cable or something.
Oh, somebody in Wisconsin just won that lottery after taxes. The lump sum is $250 million. Hey, I could do a lot with that. Thank you.
Yeah.
Let's see. Do you require adult children to attend church while living at home? No. Their relationship with God is their responsibility, not ours. It's our responsibility to train them up, but once they have been trained up, it is up to them what their responsibility with Christ and God is going to be for them. So,
but we do encourage them to go.
Yeah.
But we would not make them go.
Yeah.
And we wouldn't bug them about it all the time if they said, I don't want to go.
Yeah. Okay, let's see. Can I ask a favor? I've noticed that your sales have been at the end of the month lately. Being on SSI, gone by the 10th or so. Could you consider? We have sales at the beginning of the month all the time. As a matter of fact, we're having one next week at the beginning of the month. So we have sales all the time at the beginning of the month. Do we go to Bible study at our church? Yes. Uh-huh.
And I go to one with a bunch of guys that are from different churches, but it was originally from a church that we had visited and didn't stay there.
Mm-hmm. We don't have a relish dish in this Dining on a Dime.
How did your parents make a piano?
My parents had a piano making business. So I come from an entrepreneurial family, And my parents had a player piano business where they made player piano parts and player pianos. So,
We have a side hustles playlist.
where are the videos to making money? Go to playlists, and it's a side hustle playlist. YouTube, Living on a Dime, playlist, side hustles.
I need to see if I added that first one on there. I don't remember if I did.
Congratulations from Teresa on paying down your house principal, only $27,000.
Yay! Thank you. Blisters on your feet.
What? Where's that at?
Do you have any suggestions for blisters on your feet? Does the salt do it?
I soak in Epsom salts when I get that. It dries out the blister quicker, I feel. So I would soak in Epsom salts. That's what I do.
Sorry, you're a riot.
I am. What did I do? The only part with the jackpot is you don't get the full amount. Who cares? $250 million?
The thing is, either way, it's a trick. Like if you get it, it's the best deal will be if you take the lump sum and invest it yourself.
Would we buy a new car? Christine wants to know if we won the lotto. I would. Not a brand new car. Well, if I won $250 million, I'd probably buy a brand new car with cash. Yeah, I probably would.
But we don't, we're not.
But it's not that big of a deal.
We don't look at cars as a status thing though. So if it drives nice and has heat and radio and.
So here's my thing on stuff like that. I maybe would. But in my mind, it always comes up, if I spent $40,000 on a new car or I spent $10,000 on a used car, I could take that $30,000 and give it to Compassion International and help who knows how many kids to get food and water and shoes. And for me, I would rather spend my money giving it to something like that than for me to have a more luxurious ride. And so that's kind of, even though we are doing better now and we only have $27,000 left on our mortgage.
Once we pay it off, we're not going to go buy another car.
We're not going to go crazy either because we would rather take our money and help people who have things like that going on than just waste it to have a more comfortable car. So when a $10,000 car would, even a $5,000 car would be fine. So that's kind of where we come from on that.
Well, yeah, and for us, the car, if it rides nicely and it has heat and air and a radio, can't really ask for more than that.
Yeah. Tammy, I'm thinking of stopping my satellite service. I think it's a waste of money. What ideas do you have? I think it's a huge waste of money. We watch YouTube. We do have Amazon Prime. Mostly for the business, for our business stuff that we need it for.
But the thing is, the cost of it, if you break it out over the whole year, is so small.
Like $7 a month.
It's so small. And all those services are. And so I would definitely cancel the satellite and do that.
Donna, what are your thoughts on Idaho when you live there? My heart is there, our daughter. Okay. This is I don't know how to say this.
We liked it a lot in certain ways.
Okay, we really liked Idaho, and if your daughter was there, I would definitely move there. Okay.
What part of Idaho?
But there were some things in Idaho that we weren't really comfortable with, and so that's why we have made the decision to not go back. But I don't think that we really want to go into it on the show, probably. So.
Probably not.
Yeah. So anyway,
we
did like it, but there were some things that
it does kind of depend. I would also say where in Idaho are you talking about?
Yeah.
Because in general, there are a lot of positives.
Rhonda, I think is how you say it. You guys have brought hope to hopeless finances.
Woohoo,
hey,
yay.
That's great. Carol, if you pay cash for anything over $10,000, the IRS will be notified and trigger an audit. Fine, let them audit. I'm not doing anything wrong, so.
On like what was that related to the car?
Just probably the car.
Because on the car, yeah. I mean, if they ask us, we'll just say, "Here's the receipt."
Debbie, I still have my next husband on my mortgage. I think maybe she means ex-husband on my mortgage. But he has no legal right to my house. He signed the papers. Should I pay off my mortgage with him still on it?
I would try to get him off of your stuff.
Yeah, I would really try to get him totally off because he could make a claim.
He could try. The thing is, you never know for sure if your stuff has his name on it in any way. There's always the potential that somehow there could be some sort of legal entanglement with him, and you really don't want that.
Yeah. Billy, how can you afford an assistant? So we have 4 assistants, actually. And one just quit today, so now we have 3. It was her last day today. So we have 3. It's business. It's part of our business. So we have to. We can't do all the work ourselves.
Essentially,
so
what we've done is we have, when there's something that we just can't handle doing it all, and the business is making a little bit more money than we need, we've taken that money and hired somebody else for some of the time to do some of that work. Mm-hmm. And it tends to then make the business more successful, more useful to people. And then it tends to create more money that we've used to hire the next person.
So Donna said Post Falls. That's probably okay, but...
I forgot where's Post Falls.
Down south. But, yeah... Christine, I just bought a new house today. Do you get your realtor and the loan guy a gift? No, you gave them a gift of who knows how many thousands of dollars by a paycheck. So no, I wouldn't.
We normally don't.
Yeah. Let's see. Oh, it was Rhonda. Yay, I did it right. Okay, yeah, he could make a claim, so I would not put him on that mortgage.
If he's on the mortgage, I'd be surprised if he's not on the deed also.
Woo!
That would be a big problem for you.
Debbie, I always get a new car when my other one paid off. Listening to you guys, I didn't do that. Woo! Yay! Good job. Okay. How can you convince your family that you're sick? I have CFS and fibromyalgia. You can't, Angie. You just have to kind of go along with life and just try to explain it as best as possible. But you're not going to.
If it's your extended family, I wouldn't worry about them. If it's your husband or something like that, it's more important. But like some extended family never would understand that about Tara, and we just don't care.
Yeah.
But if I didn't understand it, I mean, I didn't understand the degree that it was an issue, but if your husband doesn't understand it, that would be the big trouble.
Yeah. And you may have to go in and get counseling. Bandana Grandma, when was the last time we visited the donut house? Actually, it was about 2 weeks after you came, and that was the last time.
I'm sure the kids go a lot more than us. We just take people like you there because we like it.
We just take you there. Let's see. Why did we move from Colorado to Kansas?
Well, we always wanted to come back to Colorado when we moved away, and we didn't anticipate being gone that long, and we thought we weren't going to move back. And then at the time, our
brother-in-law had terminal cancer, and they needed help, and we knew we would have to have our niece live with us, so we came back to help with that. And
also at that time, it happened that the economy was depressed in Colorado, but the economy in Kansas doesn't change that much. So price-wise, it was probably the best time to make that leap, even though it was... The housing here is a lot more expensive than there. So that was a little bit backwards for us.
How big is your garden? My garden's about 1,800 square feet, I think, if you count everything. I got seeds out today. They're sitting right there, but I don't know if I'm still trying to decide. Okay, Faith Alarms. Do you,
yes.
Oh man, this is a loaded question for, but, okay.
Short answer is yes.
Do you believe in faith alone for salvation, no works needed, and can't lose it? I've always wondered about your beliefs.
Yes.
So tell people what we believe, just so people...
We believe that you are saved by faith alone, by the grace of God. And, wait, what was the... Sorry. And the Bible is clear that works are not needed to be saved, but that if you are saved, that... you will want to do works as showing your love for Christ. Out of the Spirit that's been given you, that when you come to true faith, that the Holy Spirit comes into your heart. No works are not needed to be saved. However, if you are a Christian and you don't do any good works after that, then you might question whether you really understand.
Gave your life to Christ or not. Yeah.
So that's not required for salvation, but it is something that should come out of that. And can't lose it. Yes, I agree. That's John 10. well, there are a lot of places, but John 10 specifically says that you cannot lose it.
And when you become a Christian, it does not mean all your sin is going to leave you. You are still going to make mistakes. You are still going to sin. You are still going to have problems. But you have Christ then to help you through those things and help you continue to work on those things. So even though they're there, sometimes they miraculously go away, but sometimes Christ uses that to help us grow in other areas, so he leaves those things and doesn't heal them for whatever particular reason, so that like you will grow.
Paul's thorn in the flesh. One thing, something else I was going to say about that. As far as the not losing it, I know a lot of people that disagree with me on that, but there are a lot of places where it specifically says that's the case. But I would say for people that say they're believers and then they turn away and the rest of their lives they're never interested at all, they were not believers to begin with.
Yeah.
And I think unfortunately it's easy to be manipulated into saying something because other people put pressure on you when it's not really in your heart.
And we don't believe that being baptized as a child, that is not salvation. That is parents dedicating their children to raise them up to love the Lord and teach them about the Lord, but it is between the person and God alone. It is nothing you do in the church. It can be baptism after you've become a Christian is an outward symbol.
It's an important outward symbol
of showing that you are a follower of Christ now, but it does not get you to heaven, and being baptized as a baby does not get you to heaven either.
Something else you were saying about that. Another thing is we don't consider ourselves religious.
Yeah.
Because again, the Bible talks about a relationship with God, and even in the Old Testament, it's even though there's the law and a lot of rules that are described there are a lot of things that specifically say it's more about the relationship. And religion is more rules that oftentimes don't have the relationship component. So if you have rules and you don't have a relationship with God, then you really don't have anything.
Okay, Angie, I get disappointed in churches and it's turned me off going, sadly. Okay, so here's the thing, guys. We are in the end times. Christ is going to be returning soon. The signs are everywhere. If you read the Bible and you listen to things that are happening in Israel and around the world, he is going to be returning soon. A part of that, which is also explained in the Bible, is a hardening of hearts among people, including people in the church, unfortunately. Now,
and a lot of churches are going to be useless.
Yes. A lot of churches are not following the Bible. They're not preaching correct biblical teachings. And we will say it is very difficult to find a good Bible-based church now. It is very difficult. We went to like 40 here in the Denver metro area before we found one. We were going to church online at home, having friends over going online at home because we could not find a church in Wichita when we lived there. So it is a major problem. Having said that, though, that does not mean that you can't have a good relationship with Christ yourself. Okay, just because the church is not doing good doesn't mean that you can't have a good relationship with Christ personally. So what do? You read your Bible, you pray, you watch things online. We love Joyce Meyer, we love Chuck Swindoll, we love David Jeremiah, we love Charles Stanley, we love Jack Hibbs, we love Pastor Ed at Calvary Chapel Aurora in Denver.
Calvary Aurora is awesome.
So find some good preaching and just start preaching, and then start praying that God will show you a church that you can go to. And if you can't, get some friends together and have church at your house on Sunday morning or Saturday. If you prefer to have your Sabbath on Saturday, that's fine. So there's nothing to stop you from having a good relationship and having a good church. Just invite people into your home. And I think in the end times, one of the pastors Mom watched, he said, the home churches are going to be where people are going to start having the church because it's such a big problem. So first of all, it's not you. It is not you. It is a major problem, but that doesn't keep you from having a good relationship with Christ.
But it is still good to try to find other people that you can connect with.
Yeah. And it doesn't have to be a lot, even if it's just
because some people
two.
say, I'll just stay home and watch stuff on the internet and never try. But there is a connection component that's really important. But another thing to consider is that people are all flawed. We're all flawed. Like Tara and I, we're believers. I'd say we're pretty strong Christians, but we're not perfect. And
Michael has problems every day.
And that's the thing, is that people think that if you say you're a Christian, that you think you're perfect. No, I know I'm not perfect. That's why I have Christ, because there's absolutely no way I could be perfect on my own. And the thing is that we have to realize is that everyone has flaws, including us. So when we go to the church, like, I think we have a good church. I really like our church, but I see things in people and I think, oh, that bothers me about this person. And I realize it's not about me in that situation. But at the same time, if you really struggle with everything that's happening at that church, it's the wrong one. And like for us, like Tara said, we had to visit a lot of churches. And we mentioned Calvary Aurora is in Aurora, Colorado, but it's really a great church, but it's just so far from us, we couldn't go regularly.
What version of the Bible do we read, and what denomination are you? So we read several versions of the Bible. I say my take on that is, as long as it's like a New King James, NIV, which I know is controversial, ESV,
needs to be
American,
accurately translated.
If it's accurately translated, then, and I know some people are going to say that on NIV, but I have actually gone back and looked, and I feel comfortable reading an NIV. If you can read it, the important thing is to be reading it.
The one you will read.
The most important translation is the one you will read, as long as it's an accurate translation. Now, like the story, that's a story. That's not the Bible. And I think there's another one called The Story too. And the Message, that's not a Bible, that's a story.
It's a paraphrase, which has some value, but should not be relied on for if you're. So I would say, if I was recommending a Bible to someone who has never read it or not read it very much or had a great difficulty reading it, I would go with the New Living Translation. It's accurate, but it's understandable. I like the New American Standard. It's very closely translated. It's very accurately translated along with the original texts. And English Standard is pretty good in that way. New King James. A lot of people are Old King James only people. I think Old King James is fine. I just don't understand it very well because it's not a language I speak. Yeah,
Ravi Zacharias is really good also. He's a really
Ravi Zacharias is awesome. Somebody mentioned him. Yeah, I like him.
So let's see. What denomination are we? Go ahead and.
Well, I mean, the church that we go to is evangelical free. We've gone to Calvary Chapel churches, mainly
Baptist churches.
The main thing is we think that the Bible is the source of it's a message from God to us, and that it's possible to get revelation from God yourself, but if it contradicts what's in the Bible, it's wrong. So churches that tend to go with that. The other thing is, though, that it doesn't add to the Bible. So like some churches will say you can't go to movies, or you can't dance or play cards or whatever, and that's totally ridiculous because the Bible has nothing to say about that. And those are rules that people add, and we also don't believe in adding anything that's not in the Bible to the Bible.
Yeah. Okay.
Bible Gateway is very helpful. You're right, Ms. T. Bible Gateway is awesome.
Yeah, and Bible Gateway is good for looking at the original translation. So, like, if you're wondering if NIV is translated correctly versus New King James versus Old King James versus whatever, go back to the original and see what the original language says. Then you can make a decision on what you want to read.
So there are translations called interlinear translations, and they will show the original language next to.
Two family and big family are on here. Hey, our favorite families, guys. Hello.
One thing, Bible Gateway, somebody mentioned Bible Gateway. I would say, as far as I can tell, they have a lot of translations listed, and I would say I would have pretty much full confidence that Bible Gateway, the translations that they show are probably okay.
Yeah.
There are certain translations that are not okay, like the New World Translation. Sorry if we have any Jehovah's Witnesses out there, but that's translated incorrectly, and it's translated incorrectly on purpose. Sorry. So some things like with the issue on the NIV that people have, there are certain things where they say this piece is left out there. There are some things that are in dispute that may not be in that one spot in the NIV, but they're still illustrated elsewhere. So even if you think that it bothers you that something isn't there because in some of the original texts it wasn't there, the message is still in the Bible. And therefore, I don't think the NIV is really problematic in the way a lot of people do. But if you believe that the old King James is the original translation sent down from God, then you will disagree with me. I think it's a good translation. I just don't think it's the divine inspired original language translation.
And I do really think that we are getting close to Christ's return. We do believe that Christ is going to return and rapture the church out of here. And those people who are not Christians will be left behind on earth. And then Satan is going to be having reign over the earth, and it's going to be a mess. I mean, it's really going to be a mess. But anyone who has given their life to Christ before that will go to heaven when it happens. But there are certain things.
But there are many who will come after that.
Yeah, but there are certain things in the Bible talks about things happening like earthquakes and floods and famines and hardness of heart and sexual things that are happening. And you see it every single day. I mean, who would have even dreamed that it would be possible to just flat out murder a baby that is able to be living on its own outside its mother? I mean, that's just disgusting. So it is happening all over the place all the time with some of these marriage laws we've had, that kind of thing. The Bible is very specific on that. So you can see all these things happening and things that are happening in Israel. It's very interesting watching prophecy in the Bible and watching the things in Israel that's happening. I mean, it's coming true. So it's your choice if you're going to believe it or not. And God does give us that choice. So He's free will. So
No Life 2692, but the world is already a mess. True. And one thing that the Bible does say from the beginning is that people, the very first people, broke it from the beginning, and the sin that they brought on has damaged everything in the world, and it's going to get worse all the way to the end. But doesn't mean we shouldn't fight against that. We should. And the other thing is, if those first people didn't do that, and we were the first people, we would have done that. Mm-hmm. So we can't say we're not responsible.
Okay, as far as Bibles, if we had to pick one Bible, we would probably pick the ESV. Probably.
You would. I'd probably pick NASB.
Okay, well, you would pick NASB. So.
But if you really want to understand one, you have no idea, I would get New Living Translation. It's my favorite reading.
What are your thoughts about the head covering? Oh boy.
Well, one thing I would say, a lot of the specific issues that people talk about, like the Bible translation, if it's a pretty accurate, I mean, there are very many really good translations. People have preferences one way or another. Some people get really strung up about something in a translation, but generally most of them are good. I would want to make sure that the one I aim is good, but if we fight with people over it,
it's not worth an argument. No,
we tend to go with a lot of translations because we can say, well, this one says it, but I didn't understand it till I saw how it was phrased in this one, and then I realized, oh, sure enough, it does say that, and so that's good. But we do tend to think major in the majors, like not fighting over the little things. I mean, everything is important, but some things are more important than others. Mm-hmm. And we're called to be in unity with other believers, and some believers don't believe exactly everything that we believe, but they're still believers. And so on that, it's not worth some things we wouldn't argue over, like the like the Bible translations. If it's a good translation, I don't care if it's a translation that I don't really like, but you like it. That's fine. If it's an incorrect translation, I would definitely not use it.
Mm-hmm.
And so things like the head covering, they're legitimate things that people can say on that, but I certainly wouldn't make some of those things the main issue.
Yeah. Okay, so what are things on head covering? So I've actually researched this, and I think that actually Christian women are supposed to wear head coverings for a couple of reasons. One, because when it's talking about in the Bible, if you go back to the Greek, it says an actual physical veil, not just long hair. But it also says we're supposed to pray without ceasing. And if we're supposed to pray without ceasing, and we're supposed to have our head covered when we're praying, then to me that means wear it all the time. And that's kind of something that I've thought about in our church and that kind of thing, and that's a minor, I would say. But anyway, I think that if you feel you're supposed to, you should. Do I think every Christian woman probably should? Yeah, I probably think they probably should. Do I? No. But, I don't know that I'm right on that, because I also don't believe that it's just your long hair. I think the Bible says that women should have long hair, but I don't think that that's...
Does it say on? I wasn't sure. I haven't made a study of it to know on the veil thing, but I do know
it does say that you're supposed to have an actual veil,
that it says
not just long hair.
I do know it says that men should not have their heads covered when they pray.
Yeah, but it does say that women should, and it does say a veil. So, Dixie, the Bible says in the last days the right will be wrong and the wrong will be right. That is happening right before our eyes. That's true. I mean,
what's really
it's happening.
Sad about that is...
Thank you, too, family.
A lot of people don't recognize that the wrong is said to be right. I mean, they may have a specific issue where they think other people are against them, but in general, like, so much stuff that's not right is said to be right. Actually, one thing I think is really interesting, because before I was a believer, I was one of these people that that was thinking about... I've heard people say, about people making up God. People didn't make up God. God made us. Like, we didn't create him. And I think deep in our hearts, everyone on earth knows that's true. But it's easy to say people invented God so that we cannot have any responsibility.
Yeah. Do we believe... Okay, so... Somebody said, isn't that Old Testament for head coverings? No, it's New Testament. So,
I wouldn't get bogged down in the details.
It's not going to keep you from going to heaven. That's a minor that's not going to keep you from going to heaven. But, it's something that you should study for yourself and look and see. Do we believe in predestination?
Okay, so... The short answer is not what people normally say about predestination. But the Bible does mention that we're predestined. Essentially, we are all given a choice. We can choose to accept him or not. But the Bible says for who he foreknew, he also predestined. And in that sense, I'm not really an expert on that, but essentially I'd say it's a little bit of both. But the predestination part, I really interpret that more as he already knows, because he's at the end and at the beginning. But that essentially he predestined everyone who comes to him to be saved.
Yeah.
So that's not very... Essentially, do I believe that you're predestined to go to hell and you have no choice? No, I don't think that's true.
I think God gives everybody a choice at some time.
And I also think that God does not take you. So when people say, oh, well, this person died, I don't know what their condition was with God. I don't think he would take you until he knows you're going to reject him and you're never coming.
Yeah. Okay,
That's my own personal opinion. That's not something I can quote.
so back to head coverings. Didn't mean to make this a head covering thing, but for those of you who are wondering on my verses, it's 1 Corinthians 12, 2 through 16, and 1 Timothy 2, 9 is the places where I was looking at those things.
One thing I would say when I talk about not getting too wound up about certain details, all the details are important, but I think about when I first became a believer, there are a lot of things that at that time I assumed to be true, and God didn't change me on those at that time. And over the years, I've understood more and I read more. But if I died in that first moment when I was a believer, it doesn't matter if I was incorrect on those other things. I was his already. So it's important to want to honor God in everything. But if you're incorrect, you make a mistake, but you have a relationship with him, then he's not going to condemn you for that. Mm-hmm. So it's kind of like, I know people that have tattoos. I know Christians that have tattoos and have gotten them after they were believers. And I don't have any reason to condemn them for that. I personally think that since we are made in the image of God, for my own conviction, I think that I would not want to do anything that might not honor that. Although there are Old Testament verses, there's one Old Testament verse that says that you should not tattoo yourself like the pagans. I don't really get into it about what that means. I just know that for myself, if I'm made in the image of God, I want to do as much as I can to respect him because of that.
A few years ago, my husband completely turned his back on God and Jesus and decided he doesn't believe in any of it anymore. Now is not a very nice person to be around. What do you do in this situation? So he knows the gospel. Here's the thing, guys. When the gospel has been presented to someone, which means when they know that in order to go to heaven, they have to ask Christ to forgive them of their sins, and they are going to live for Christ now. When a person knows that, then it's up to you to pray for them. And that is all you do. You don't lecture them. You don't keep going on and on about it. If the subject comes up, you discuss it nicely and don't argue. But your number one, 90% of the time, what you're supposed to do is just pray for them because they already know. So now it's up between God working on them and them deciding if they're going to turn to God.
But I would also say if you want to model your relationship with God, because the Bible actually tells us that may influence him. If it doesn't influence him, it's not ultimately your responsibility. Yeah. But what I would say is,
you need to be forgiving, and you need to be loving, and you need to be caring towards them.
If a person can turn away and consistently stay turned away and stay hard-hearted, I would question whether they actually had any relationship in the first place. And that's one reason why I don't like churches. I'm apologizing ahead of time if I offend anyone, but churches that label themselves fundamental, I tend to agree that fundamental doctrine is important, but churches that call themselves fundamental tend to put more rules on people than what the Bible puts on us, and tend to be more hard on us than God is on us. And so a lot of people are told this is what you have to do to come to Jesus, and they come because mom and dad might not love me if I don't come. And in reality, they never had that relationship, but they were afraid to say something. And so they pretend in their own hearts because they don't understand what that relationship is. And so they say, I'm a Christian, and they're not. And I think that happens with a lot of people, unfortunately. And the Bible tells us that a lot of people will be surprised. And so in those circumstances, I would say, I wouldn't be clear if he was a believer to begin with. But if you model that, your relationship, and treat him well and don't, pester him all the time about it, that there's the chance that he could come. Typically, people in that situation, they have some sort of internal crisis going on, and it challenges them, and maybe the faith they had wasn't what they thought it was.
Yeah. What about people divorcing or remarrying? What's the rule? Okay, so from what I've read in the Bible about divorce and remarriage is if someone is married and one spouse...
This is an interesting show.
This is not where we planned on going at all with the show, but okay. If you are married and one or the other spouse has an affair, the other spouse has the right to divorce the other person. They have grounds for divorce for the other person. But if you go to remarry, you will be fine if you are the non-adulterous spouse. But if you're just not getting along and you get a divorce and then you get remarried, you are committing adultery on that first husband or wife. That is the way I've seen it in the Bible. Now, I will say that if you have been in that situation and then you did not know that, even as a Christian, if you did not know that and you have gotten remarried, God will forgive you and, just move on with your life and have that good relationship with your spouse that you have now. But if you are trying to decide if you should remarry someone or not, then if you guys just got divorced because, I got tired of Mike this week, so I'm going to go get divorced. So here's the scenario. Mike and I are married. I get tired of Mike. I boot him out. I'm done. He gets tired of me. He boots me out. He's done. Either one of us goes to get remarried. That is not biblical, and we are committing adultery on the other. Let's say Mike has an affair on me. I can leave him and get remarried, and I will be fine biblically, or vice versa. But,
God's desire is not really for people to be divorced.
Yeah.
I'm not saying that it's, I wouldn't say, I don't judge people that I know who've been divorced, even if they just decided not to. That's between them and God, not between me and them.
And you can be separated and not be divorced. I think that you can be separated and not be divorced and stay faithful to your spouse while you're working things out. Also, there was one other thing that I just came up with while I was thinking about that. Crud. Well, anyway, so biblically, I think that if you just got divorced because you just felt like it, that you should not be remarried.
But one thing, this is why when people ask us about marriage and stuff, we're really very specific with our kids to say, hey, you want to be extra thoughtful before you think of marrying somebody. It can't just be a feeling of, I'm so excited because I'm around them. That's not going to work. You have to be able to think in a dispassionate way. Okay, if this was somebody else that was thinking about marrying this person, somebody that I care about, and I saw this relationship, what would I tell them about it if it wasn't me? Because people often, I'd say more often than not, divorce is because when people got married, they didn't really look at that in a common sense way. They looked at it more in a how do I feel kind of way, and feelings will betray you. And feelings are great in a relationship when it's a good relationship, but you can't make decisions based on that.
Mm-hmm.
So
yeah, I know a lot of people who say they are Christian, but in reality they simply believe in God but don't understand salvation and relationship. Yes. So there are a lot of people who say they're Christians. You're a Christian when you have asked God to forgive you of your sins and ask Christ to come into your heart and live into your heart, and you are going to live for Him now. Doesn't mean you're perfect, doesn't mean your sin and your temptations are going to go away. It means He's going to be there to help you with that. But if you have not repented of your sins and asked Christ to come into your heart, you are not a Christian, okay? And just going to church does not make you a Christian. Just being baptized in the church does not make you a Christian. Being a member of a church does not make you a Christian. just
Grandma
living.
was in a church doesn't make
Grandma
you...
lives in a church. If you live in America, that doesn't just make you a Christian. Just because you believe in God, I mean, Satan believes in God.
But
So,
if you were,
yeah.
I would say though that the best thing, if you're unclear, and even if you think you're clear, but is to be in His Word, to read it, study it, and understand it, and pray. When I was not a believer, nobody in my family was a believer. And there was a time where I was having this kind of crisis of faith because I was trying to do things myself, and I really shot myself in the foot a lot. And I was feeling really hopeless. And I remember, I know it's kind of cliche, but in the movies where people are like, God, tell me. Well, I did that. Except I really wanted to know, or I was thinking, okay, if you tell me something and I don't want to know, I don't really want to believe that's the way it is, I will listen because I'm telling you, just tell me. And it took a couple of years, but He told me. And He told me things that I didn't want to hear about myself. Through all sorts of circumstances and people. And I realized, you can trust Him to say, like, this isn't you having to listen to somebody who's trying to strong arm you. You go by yourself to God and say, I don't really know who you are. I want to know, and I'm going to lay down all of my expectations. Because if you come in with expectations and thinking, I want to know who you are, God, but I'm only going to believe you if you tell me these things. No, then you're your own God, and that's your faith. And so if you can say, okay, tell me the truth, and I will listen, and I'm not going to, you may not hear what you want to hear, but if you listen enough, and if you kind of, I would say reading the Word is helpful. At the time I didn't, because I didn't understand how I was going to understand it. But He will be true. Like, the Bible tells us that God is a rewarder of those that earnestly seek Him. And so if you're serious and you're not going to hold back and say, somebody told me I have to do it this way. So as long as you're within those boundaries, God, then
Yeah. Okay.
He has no boundaries.
Thank you, Christine. This is what I was going to address with divorce. First of all, someone said divorce is not the unpardonable sin. There is no sin that is unpardonable except denying God. Rejecting God is the only sin that is unpardonable. Everything else, He will forgive you until your very last breath. If it is your last breath and you say, Jesus, save me, He will. Okay? The thief on the cross asked Jesus to save him as he was dying in his last seconds on earth. So you have until your last breath, and God gives you that chance. The second thing is, Christine said, what if your husband was violent and abusive? Okay. That's not okay. That's not okay. I don't think that you should stay married to someone if they are being abusive to you. And there's a verse in the Bible, and I can't remember where it was. Look, what does the Bible say on abuse in marriage? Look up that specific phrase on Google, and you'll find several places that have verses where you can go. But I do know that one of them is that women are supposed to submit to their husband. Okay, but
husbands are supposed to love their wives
as Christ loved the church, bride, His church.
And He went to a torturous death for them. So husbands should be willing to love their wives that much. Death. Yep. That's the command on the man. And also when it says women submit to your husbands, it doesn't mean be a punching bag for your husband. No. It means that he should be in authority, but you are equally important. And so when people use that verse to say women should be less than men or the property of their husbands, that's completely against what the Bible says. Mm-hmm. Yeah. It
just means that somebody has to be in authority at all times. I don't care who you are. We all have authority that we have to be under. It's either the President of the United States, it is your boss at work, it is your parents, whoever. Everyone is under some authority somewhere. In the home, there has to be a final authority, or else you'll never get anything accomplished, okay? So the husband is the final authority. So if you guys are not agreeing on something, then you just have to say, you know what, I don't agree with this, but it's your final decision. He is going to be responsible to God for that decision. So you are responsible to pray for him and that decision. But that is where it stands. But it does not mean that you are to be a punching bag and just research those verses. Guys, research all of this stuff. Just Google, what does the Bible say on head covering? Go in and look at those verses, and then go into the Greek, go into an interlinear Bible on Bible Gateway. They have an interlinear translation. See exactly what the Greek and the, what's the Old Testament? Hebrew. The Greek and the Hebrew say on those things. And research it. What does the Bible say?
One thing, when people say the Bible says blah, 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 if it's important, you should go look yourself. Don't just believe them because they told you that. And there are some people that I've seen who have a false translation, and they will say the Bible says, and the truth is that their false translation says. But it's helpful to understand for yourself. So like for me, there were times where I was thinking, how do I know that this is translated right? What about all these other books that didn't make it in the Bible? So I went and studied Bible translation. And it was, well, somebody said that's not correct in your translations. So I was thinking, okay, how do I find out what the original language said? And so I studied some of that. And if it's important, I mean, some issues are less important than others, and others are more important. And if it's important, it would be good to find out for yourself in a way that satisfies your understanding. Like the Bible, I forgot where it is, it talks about this group of people called the Bereans. And whenever Paul would preach to them, they would open the scriptures and look and see, is this all exactly the way he's saying when he makes this point about something? And we should all do that. We shouldn't just take it for somebody's word because they said God says, blah, blah, blah.
And if you don't understand something, watch some YouTube videos from pastors that are reputable, like Charles Stanley, David Jeremiah, Robbie Zacharias. Those guys, research and see what they have to say in translating that, and see if it makes sense with what you're reading in the Bible if you don't understand something.
Also, if you're listening to somebody, not everybody is going to be correct in what they say. And if it causes great fear and anguish in you, and that fear and anguish, it might be if it causes great fear and anguish in you, and that fear and anguish is because you realize you don't have a relationship with God, that would be a reason to be fearful and anxious. But in general, when somebody is teaching, the Word of God, your reaction should not be, I have to be afraid and do fearful things. If so, that's a clue that might not be the kind of teaching you should be listening to. Or conspiracies, they're fun sometimes to think about conspiracies, but we are commanded not to listen to conspiracies. And conspiracies, the devil is the author of confusion, and God gives us a spirit of peace. And so with everything, you should think, okay, like if you don't know, should I listen to this person or not? Well, first of all, if you do listen to them, always look at what they're saying and see if it's true.
And do they reference Bible verses?
And
they're not just, there are people who are like, okay, he's a really nice guy and he does say things, but like Joel Osteen, he's an encourager. I don't really think he's a preacher because he hardly ever references Bible verses in his preaching. If someone is truly preaching from the Bible, they will reference verse after verse after verse.
They should tell you where.
Yeah.
Well, and even if they don't say, like I said, God doesn't give us a spirit of fear. That is an actual verse, and I can't remember which one it is. But if somebody says something like that, open the Bible and go look and see.
Go to Bible Gateway, type in the phrase.
Something else is interesting is that it's easy to extract one verse from the Bible and say something that it's not actually saying. So when somebody says, the Bible says, blah, 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 go look and look at it in context, because when I when I was in college, it really it was instrumental in my coming to Christ. That when I was at the university, it said, "You will know the truth, and the truth will set you free" on the building. It didn't say it was from the Bible, but the reality is, some people use that verse to mean if you do what we say, then you're going to be set free. But that's not what the Bible says. It says, if you hold to my teachings, you are truly my disciples, and then you will know the truth, and the truth will set you free. And the thing is, it's important to understand the context. Or what's the verse, Jeremiah 29:11, that everyone says? I know the plans I have for you.
I hate that verse.
Yeah, that's what God told Israel through the prophet before he sent them into a long period of exile.
70 years of,
So it's true that he loved them, and he had big plans for them, and he does.
But they were going to have to go through a lot.
But in that
to
moment, the promise comes with, you're going to have a lot of trials and hardship between now and then. And people sometimes quote verses like that in a way that's not really in context. Like, oh, because God says this, I know that I'm going to have a happy day and nothing's ever going to go against me. No. And so it's important when people tell you stuff that you look and see, is this true?
Yeah.
And if somebody challenges something about your faith in general, go look and see.
Yeah.
Like I said, with the translations of the Bible, how is that translated? Mm-hmm. What's the original? Oh, they say this isn't what the original language says. Well, let's go look at an interlinear, because we can compare it with the original language.
Yeah. And go to BibleGateway.com. You can read it online, all the different translations that you want. If you don't have a Bible, email us. We will be happy to send you one on us. We won't charge you nothing. We will send it to you. We have sent Bibles to people before several times. So, okay, here is a very loaded one, but I really feel like we should answer this question. I've been invited to a marriage of 2 men. They are not believers. They are very kind and loving. As a believer, what should I do? Well, I don't think you should go, because I don't truthfully think, I saw in the comments someone said, if anyone objects to this, I wouldn't be able to stand there. I think that I would go whoever said that was correct. I would go just for that reason, because I feel like you would be lying. Saying
you would or would not?
Would not. You would be lying, saying that you're approving of this. And you can still be friends with them, but it doesn't mean that you have to approve of what they're doing, which is against what the Bible says about that. So,
but it doesn't mean that you should not be friends with somebody because that's the way they believe that they should be.
Because you're supposed to be the light shining in the darkness.
Yeah. Everyone should be treated well, because we are all created by God, and God loves everything he created. But God does not love everything we do. Mm-hmm. And for some people who might be, this is an issue that is difficult for a lot of people who don't realize that the Bible also condemns us for things like living. It doesn't condemn us. The Bible tells us not to do things like live together before we're married, have other relationships beyond that when you are married, sexual relationships when you are not married, different things like that. So when Tara says no, she probably wouldn't in that circumstance, there are a lot of circumstances that are not that, where we also would. Like, I wouldn't get a
housewarming gift for 2 people living together. I see that all the time. I don't condone that, so I wouldn't buy a housewarming gift for 2 people who have decided to move in together.
The thing about being married is it's a covenant. It's a commitment forever. And if you're not willing to make that commitment forever, you're not willing to make that commitment for 5 minutes, really. So those things are... But at the same time, we know so many people who are in all different phases of all that, and we have our own issues.
Yeah.
So it doesn't mean that we're not friends with people, or that if they were family, we wouldn't turn them away because they're family. We don't... When people do things that we don't think are right, that's between them and God. Mm-hmm. And if they ask us, we'll tell them, especially if it's like our kids or something.
And I think God put you in those people's lives to pray for them.
But God doesn't call us to be condemning of them or to try to hurt them in any way. So that's the reason that's a difficult question, is because you don't want to hurt them if they're friends. But certain things you can't
condone either.
Can't necessarily say I'm showing that, like, people know us. They know us in our relationship with God in a way that if we do something that if we participate in something in a way that we know is wrong, it might say, well, they seem okay with it, so therefore God is okay with it. At the same time, those decisions are between individuals and God. So even though the Bible tells us don't do that, if somebody, I know people that live together, and even though I know that we're not supposed to, I'm still friends with them, and I know they know what the Bible says, and I know that they don't do that, and I don't think it's my place to constantly be on them about that, because
and if they say something to you and question you can tell
they
them.
will have to account to God for their actions in the same way I will have to account for God for the things I do.
Back to divorce, I also want to clarify, Kelly brought this up, abandonment is also an okay reason in the Bible. If you are married to someone who is not a Christian and they abandon you, then it is okay to get remarried also in the Bible for that, just as a clarification.
But again, this is kind of what I was getting back to earlier. If you're in a situation where you were divorced, you got remarried, and you didn't know, or you weren't a believer or whatever, those things aren't going to prevent you from having a relationship with God now. Mm-hmm. It's just that when you have the opportunity to make those decisions and you know, you're kind of denying yourself what awesome thing God might have for you in a certain way. Mm-hmm. So
okay, let's see. Let's see. Joel Osteen is a Christian motivational speaker. I would agree with that. I wouldn't say that I would go to him for preaching. If you need motivation, he's good, but I would go to someone like Charles Stanley or Chuck Swindoll or David Jeremiah.
I really like Charles Stanley.
So, yeah.
He's like the grandfather I wish I
Let's see. Do you ever look? Let's see.
Sorry, maybe he doesn't want to know he's that old in my eyes.
Okay. What denomination? Okay, so we already answered that. We go to an evangelical free church, but we really aren't a denomination type thing. How do I say?
We believe the Bible is the ultimate authority and adding nothing to it. And if God gives you some direct revelation yourself, if it disagrees with the Bible, it's incorrect. Mm-hmm. If it agrees with the Bible, it would be correct. Yeah. Or it could be, at least it's legitimately correct.
Yeah.
But we think that all believers are of the same body, and therefore if we don't like to say we're denominations for that reason.
Comfort Creek Ranch says your whole attitude about sin changes when you're born again. Yes, that is true. So what happens when you ask Christ into your life, you are repentant and you're sorrowful for the things you've done. So you hurt deeply when you have committed a sin. So then when you are a Christian and you commit a sin, because you will, because we're human, you are deeply repentant of that and you ask God to forgive you and help you to change. You may not change right away, but you ask him to help you and he will help you change those things. But that's the difference in how you know if you are truly a Christian, is if you have asked Christ into your heart and you're still sinning, you're like, well, I just feel so guilty because I keep doing this. Well, be repentant and ask God to help you change. But a lot of times we just don't even ask for help. Ask for help for everything. That's why it says pray without ceasing. You know, as I'm driving down the street, if I see someone and I think I should pray for them, I will pray for them. And I'll say, Lord, I don't know what they need, but I just pray that you will give them whatever they need right now. If there's a car accident or an ambulance or a fire truck going somewhere, we pray for those people that are being helped or that are hurt or that kind of thing.
And those who are going to help them.
Yeah. So, and even, you know, when people are hurting you, that's why it says forgive our neighbors. You need to pray for them and the people that have hurt you. So,
There was something else when you were talking about. I can't think of what it is. Okay.
Okay, so
The thing about sin, I remember before I was a believer thinking this, and that people don't like to hear that word. And I realized there's a point where if you realize God is perfect and is unchangeable, He is what He is, and we change and we think this or that. But ultimately, there's a point of realizing I am not in control here. He is. At any moment, I could suddenly not be able to breathe. The fact that I am is a blessing from Him. And for people who aren't believers, the Bible says that God reigns on the just and the unjust. And the thing is that part of that is realizing that we are all beneficiaries of His grace, that He gives us this stuff because the Bible says He loved when we were still sinners, Christ died for us. So God loved us even when we rejected Him. However, because He is perfect and He's ultimately just, He cannot, if we reject Him forever, He's going to respect that and let us not be connected to Him, and that's the ultimate penalty, really. By the way, when we talk about, some people have asked about specific kind of things, sinful things, and one thing that's really interesting is one of the things when people look at other people's sins is you can say, well, that's a big sin. And that's a big sin. I don't do that. Do you lie? Because lying is listed as one of the most major sins. In fact, it says that the place of all liars is the lake of fire. So if you lie and you see somebody else who has what you think is a big sin, it might be sobering to think, before I look at that other person.
yeah. Rebecca says, I have a very hard time relating the Bible to today's life. Well, I don't know why, because it is very relevant to today's life. So what I would suggest you do is, if you're having a problem with a particular issue in your life, then I would research those individual topics. Go ahead.
I would say that probably is because you're probably not in it very much.
Yeah.
Either that, or maybe you have a Bible that's a translation you don't understand very well. So I would recommend looking in the New Living Translations, the one I've mentioned. One thing that confuses a lot of people is if you start in Genesis and you go straight from there, you get really bogged down around Leviticus or Numbers, which is the third or fourth book in. But there are certain things that if you don't understand anything, it'd be better to start in John. Genesis is helpful, but it's historical mostly, but it sets the groundwork for everything else, and it is important. But there are a lot of books kind of in the middle that are prophetic for certain things, and it's difficult to understand them unless you've read the entire thing. But I would say if it seems irrelevant to your life now, you probably haven't read it all the way, or haven't read it in a translation you understand. Ditching the grind specific references. I'm not sure which specific things I think it's great that you're asking the question, but if there's specific, I'm not sure which issues you're talking about that you'd like verses for, but I can certainly find some if there's some specific thing you're wondering. One thing off the top of my head, I'm not very good at knowing where all the references are, although I typically know about where in the Bible it is. And so if you ask me a specific thing, I often will go and look it up.
So end times. Gene Newman, do you know anything on YouTube that explains the book of Revelations? It's very hard understanding that. David Jeremiah, I think, does the best job that I see. Jack Hibbs also does a good job. Amir, A-M-I-R, Behold Israel. If you go join his Facebook page, Behold Israel, he does a great job too. Out of Goshen, hello, our friends.
Yay.
Okay, so we had another question right here that we were going to ask. What is y'all's take on a person who is a firm believer but is scared of the end? So I think that is Satan trying to use that to keep you from keeping your eyes on God. So I think the fear, the anxiety, those kinds of things, when they are coming up, I mean, there's medical reasons for that. I'm not discounting that. But what I'm saying is Satan uses those things to get our eyes on him and not on God. Here's the thing. When the end comes, we are going to be in heaven. There is absolutely nothing to be afraid of. You might be persecuted. There might be pain. You may be murdered. Yeah, that's horrible. But in the end, we're going to be in heaven.
That's all they can do to you.
That's all they can do to you. They can kill you, and that's it. And guess what? You're going to be living in eternity. It doesn't get any better than that. So I would say listen to people like David, Jeremiah, Behold Israel, those guys. They are really good about explaining the end times and explaining it in reference to the Bible and things that are currently happening. But I wouldn't be afraid. I would think that I think that's Satan using his tactics to try and dissuade you.
Tara's right on that. The enemy will attack and try to discourage, because the enemy, if you have that relationship with God, the enemy cannot do anything to you without God allowing it, which he won't allow certain things. But the enemy will try to discourage you. The enemy can still try to influence you. And the thing is, there are times you can be a firm believer and still be afraid. Although the deeper that relationship gets, the less afraid you will become usually. But I know I've been a believer for how old am I now? 25 years. And I know that there have been times where I was thinking, do I really know God? And it's normal to go through those things, and it's good to ask yourself that sometimes. But there's a point where I realize this is the enemy trying to scare me, and it's not justified. And over time,
and ask God to reveal, as you're reading the Bible, ask God to reveal these things to you. Pray before you read the Bible. Lord, please show me what I need to know today from your word. And he will show you.
Again, be open to the answer.
Yeah.
Not listening to other people's influences or using your own, what you want God to tell you. Because people will say, well, God told me I should divorce my wife. I don't think he did. Mm-hmm. And
unless she's having an adulterous affair or abandoned you, but yes.
Well, let me say, God told me I should divorce my wife because this other woman is better. No, that's not a word from God. And this is why you need to know. But that's why I say don't imprint your desired answer on God. Like, ask and then listen. Mm-hmm. And a lot of times that answer doesn't come today, right now. So you have to be in a spirit of listening. But if you stay in the scripture, it will help you focus more.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah.
The most important thing, though, is having that relationship with God and understanding that he is... the only reason we exist is for his good pleasure.
Yeah.
But nevertheless, it also... being a believer doesn't mean that life is terrible now, and when you die, then you're going to have this amazing paradise. No, he changes you now. It's a relationship that changes you now. Doesn't mean that everything's suddenly going to be roses and perfect and nothing ever bad is going to happen to you. That's a lie from the enemy also. But it does mean that he changes you in a way where things, even though you go through trials, those trials aren't as serious to you as they are to other people. And it's not a hopeless thing. Like, I'm confident. If I die, I know what's going to happen to me. And I don't really want to go now, but mostly I don't want to go now because I don't want to leave my kids without me. But if I was going to go now, I would not be afraid because I know what the end is. And the thing is that those things are hard, as it takes a lot of years. A relationship isn't like the moment you say yes, I surrender, I'm a sinner, I need you, like you're perfect and I have nothing, and you love me anyway. That's amazing. At that moment you were saved, but it's still a relationship. It's just like any other relationship. It grows the longer you're in it and the more you understand and you trust him more, and so those fears will go away. I mean, we're always gonna have some fears, but the fears become much less as time goes on, because as that relationship gets stronger, you know, okay, this is the enemy lying to me again.
Yeah. And also somebody pointed out, God will never contradict his word. That is true. So back to the gay marriage.
And he does not change.
Yeah. So back to the gay marriage thing where the person asked if she should go to her friend's marriage. Okay. That is flat out contradicting what God says in the Bible. So if those two people are getting married and the Bible says you're not supposed to do that, and they say, well, we love each other and God created us this way, that's what we're supposed to do. No, that is direct contradiction to the Bible. God will not condone those things that he tells us not to do in the Bible. It's the same thing as if we go in and steal something. God does not condone that. So you can say, well, I felt I deserved it. It doesn't matter if you deserved it. It doesn't matter what happened. If you're stealing, you're stealing. The same with lying. Well, I had to lie. No, you never, ever have to lie. Now,
we're commanded not to lie.
Yeah.
And we all do it, and we shouldn't.
Yeah.
And hopefully as we grow in our faith, we do it less. But it's still a sin when we do.
Yeah. So, I would, would remember that as far as if you're looking up what's right and what's wrong in the Bible, God will not contradict himself.
Comfort Creek Ranch is true. GotQuestions.com is a great resource.
Yeah, GotQuestions.com is great.
It is.
Yeah. GotQuestions.com is really great. You can type in pretty much anything you want to know about the Bible, and they will give you Bible references. So people want to know, what does this have to do with living on a dime? People asked us some questions about our faith, and that's what we're answering this evening.
Today is a we answer your questions thing, and that's the line of questioning that people have asked.
And so this has been our longest show ever, 2 hours. So we're glad that you guys stayed with us. I think we will end with Mike having a prayer for all of you out there who have stayed this long and would like our prayers. And we will do that now. And then we're going to take gift cards and go to Dairy Queen and eat out for tonight because, yeah.
Ooh.
So, Cheryl, my mother went to be with Jesus last May. She is not afraid. When her time came, a Christian visitor commented that they didn't understand how she could be so peaceful about it. My mother responded, "You haven't seen yet what I have seen." God gave her a glimpse of something in her final days. I truly believe. Yep. I have never seen a person who was a true Christian be afraid to die. I've seen them in pain, but, I've never heard of anyone who was a true Christian be afraid to die. So anyway, okay, let's see. One more question. Do you believe that God does not give you more than you can handle?
No, he does give you more than you can handle because he wants you to rely on him to handle it for you.
Yeah. Yeah.
The verse that you're referring to is saying that if the enemy is tempting you to sin, that God always gives you a way out if you will take that way out. But he will give you more than you can handle so that he can show you, like, he works best in our weakness. So when we know we absolutely can't do this and then he does it, it's obvious that this is a miracle because this couldn't have happened any other way.
Yep.
So, yeah.
Thank you, Jonathan. The $5 super chat. We love you, dude. Ask $40 for the table. Jonathan saw our show on dumpster diving the other day, and he went and picked a coffee table. Oh, thank you, Patricia. Wow, you guys, you're so great. Okay, so we're going to end with a prayer, and let's do that.
Oops, let me see. I just want to make sure I mark this right here. Okay. All right. Father, thank you for your faithfulness. You're mighty and amazing, and we know that you've created everything and you've appointed everything and you've put us here for this reason now. And we ask that you be with everyone that's here, and please enlighten us all. Let us know you personally. And for those who are confused and don't know you, Lord, reveal yourself to them if they really want to know. And we ask that you go with this entire audience throughout their day and bless them and give them the joy that comes from you. And thank you for the fact that we don't necessarily have to agree with each other, but knowing that you are the center, and we surrender all of our things to you because you're the one who made it all, and you're the one who cannot fail. And so we know that if we reach to you, you take care of those things for us. So we ask that you go with us, protect us and bless us. Particularly Judy asked for the result of a biopsy, and ask that you please let a favorable answer come back. And we know that whatever happens, that you're working in her life, even as a result of this. And so we ask that you go forward with everybody. Let us all have a great weekend, and reveal yourself more, and let us have a deeper relationship with you every day. And we ask it in the name of your precious Son.
Amen. And once again, if any of you can't afford a Bible, please email us. We would be happy to send you one. We have sent them to several people. And so if you cannot do that, please email us at editor, EDITOR, at livingonadime.com, and we will get you one. So thank you guys. We are off to Dairy Queen to spend our gift cards.
And we're thankful for all of you.
And thank you. Yes, you have to go that way.
Oh, right.
We'll see you guys later. Bye. Do 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 do. Do 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 do.
I'm letting it sit for just a moment
Do do do
because
do
I see that it's fine,
Mr. Dino Arms.
Mwah. Do you want to go to Dairy Queen?
Sure.
Do you think they have cucumbers at Dairy Queen?
Probably not.
What do you think they have at Dairy Queen? Do you think they have